Hello everybody out there and welcome back to another Dark Avenger comic book review. Finally, with this episode, we are caught up. We are back on time. We had very few books this week. We have a small-ish amount next week. We still got a good amount next week though. But the good news is, first of all, the books in this episode were released on
December 30th, 2015, last week of December, and the entire year of 2015.
So with this episode, we end 2015, and with this week's episode, which is the next episode, we begin 2016. And that means the review should be back on time, and the return of the Almighty Haul, because these books were not in the haul, I believe, because they came a bit late. But the good news is, with the holidays over now, we shouldn't have to worry about that anymore, and we are going to be testing out a new service in the coming months. So we'll see how that works out, and if it works out better for us, better for you guys. But anyway, expect some what's coming or little, I don't want to say updates. It's not updates, but as you guys know, when I start a haul video, I give you guys little tidbits on what's going on the channel. So look forward to that in this week's first haul video of 2016 and the return of the haul. I'm very happy to have the haul back. I missed it. I'm sure you guys enjoyed the haul on the live show. There will be a live show this Friday as well. I will mention that now because I don't know if the whole video will be before or after that. But lots of great things. Lots and lots of great things coming. And I hope you guys are enjoying. I just want to say this. I hope you guys are enjoying all the new content that I'm slowly bringing to this channel. And the best news of all, with the books now being back on time, we'll be able to start doing our reviews on Frontline again. So that means Frontline, we're going to be on time. This channel's going to be on time. All we got to do is get a good uploading schedule for Frontline Gaming Zone, and I am a happy boy. And Zone 4 is acclimated with this channel, so we're already getting back on time with this channel. So that just includes Zone 4. So everything's going on time. I'm very happy. But I'm not going to waste your guys' time because we do have books to talk about. Same as always, recap-esque. I don't even think I'm going to mention it like that anymore because Mike and I actually like giving shorter versions of our reviews because for some reason, A, I feel like I'm not spoiling the whole book, and B, I like that the reviews are going a bit faster because of that, and it gives you guys less of a lengthy episode, unlike last week's, which was almost an hour because we had so many books. When we have so many books, see, that's a good thing. It helps. So, but in this case, it should only be, well, we'll find out. First book. Let's go.
Okay.
Mike's going to start. It's indies first, and I had only one physical indie book, which we'll get into with physical, so you're doing all the digital indies, which go into the two big two.
Conan The Avenger, issue number 21. The cover says it all. The whole book I read in less than 10 minutes, and the artwork was good, by the way. It basically talks about Conan that is being nailed onto a cross due to that the servicemen wanted to do something for the queen, and I don't know, like they left him there really to die for the Vultures team and all that stuff. But it was really like, I don't know how that man withstood, like, it was like days. Like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 days until one of his service people came to unhook him, and then they set out on an adventure. So it was an okay book, just something, I mean, it was kind of interesting, but Questionable, but I felt really bad for him in the whole book, but ouchies, indeed. Wonderland issue number 42. Now, this book talked about Kylie, who is under the spell of, well, not under the spell, like, they're talking about what the hat does and what it possesses. And the Demon Lord, who you saw on the cover, wants to possess that to rule over Wonderland. But now that, wait, the White Queen is Callie or Violet?
No, Violet is the...
Violet is the White Queen, isn't it?
No, Callie's the White Queen. Violet
I'm
is
sorry, Violet. Alright, Violet, I'm sorry. I get those confused sometimes.
It's alright.
Really apologize.
You corrected me a few times about that.
Violet is with the Mad Hatter. As Callie, remember, she got kicked out of Wonderland and is now in the regular universe where... oh, God. Cheshire is now a regular cat, and she wants to try to get back into Wonderland. But she doesn't happen until the end of the book, because what it talks about is what the hat does, how much it possesses Violet, and there's different versions of Violet of when she becomes the Hatter and what it can do to her. Spoiler is that the rabbit does die in this book at the hands of Violet. with the clock stomping on and all that stuff. I don't want to give too much away because this book's really interesting. She does appear at the final page of the book. Now, I don't know if that's Violet of the Mad Hatter or if it's the regular one.
Oh, wow.
Because she did break the spell about messing up with the hand and stuff, so it could be the regular one. I hope so, but we'll find out as the other issues continue. And still on Xenoscope, Realm Knights, the giant size 2015
annual.
Yeah, the annual one-shot. And what it talks about is that they're at Arcane Acres to train, because that's what they're meant to do.
Yeah, they're training the kids to become
warriors and stuff like that. But however, we have Hook and this girl that's with him who wants to take over the Guardians and Seal of Matters because they want to strike at night so that way they could take over all of Arcane Acres. And first of all, the artwork in this book was very interesting, as well as the other one that I reviewed. It was really awesome. Like, Seal of Matters, I like how when they look like that she's getting pinned down, but when she gets back up and everything, she gets really powerful. And this new character,
Seal is very strong, yeah.
Yeah, and with this new character, it was like a black shadowy character, a Coloron. I think that's how you say it. I think I said his name wrong. He appears in this issue, and basically there's a whole book that's really awesome, and there's an epilogue too, which kind of is a set-on point to where this all began in the beginning of this book. But I really enjoyed this issue. It was really long, but it was really an enjoyable read and adventurous too. Alright, another one shot is Lobster Johnson. Now, I'm kind of an iffy fan on Lobster Johnson because I do remember reading. First of all, the artwork was a little bit kinda, like a little bit sketchy. But what it was about is that Lobster Johnson is trying to keep this woman who talks Turkish from not getting killed by these mafia people who are trying to kill her. And what they don't know is that, and what she doesn't know is that the person who she killed was a, what's another word for like a copy? Oh God,
clone?
A duplicate of something. Something like that. And then, as he kills or tries to get everybody safety, everyone gets killed, and the cops think that's all in the hands of Lobster Johnson, kind of like Spider-Man Hero Menace thing, which I remember I said way issues back when I read Lobster Johnson. And that's really the whole basis of the book. So definitely check it out at your leisure, or if you've been reading Lobster Johnson. Now, this next one, I don't know if I'm going to say it's right. Ragnarok?
Yeah, it's Ragnarok. That's
yeah,
the one with Thor.
Ragnarok issue number 7. And this is the comic where Thor actually faces Ragni with his daughter, Duressa. I think I said her name right. Something like that. And what this whole book is about is that they are wanting to fight each other because of the whole thing of what's going on with Asgard. And there's like this huge war that's going on, and with amazing artwork, by the way. They get in a fight with each other, and as a spoiler, the course of all this is that Ragni's daughter dies. After all this thing where she couldn't take it anymore with seeing all these darknesses happening. And you know what happens when people fight each other? They wind up teaming up with each other, because at the end of the book, they're like these mystical monsters that are going after them, and in order for that to stop and all that, they have to team up with each other. So, really interested to see what's going to happen from there. This one, I don't know if you read it, but I did. Savage Dragon, issue number 210.
I read it, but it's your book, so go for it. I enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed it too. Like, I like how Malcolm was on the honeymoon with... do you know her name? Melika?
I think it's her name.
Maxine? Oh, Maxine. Yeah, that's her name. Maxine, yeah. And they're on this honeymoon and everything. And there are these rock-type people that are attacking them. And Malcolm's like saying, like, how's he not getting them down? Like, they have no flesh, no blood, no bones, no anything. So... they take, and also Maxine has this power of a force field from a watch that detects danger and everything. So really, the whole thing of that was just trying to find a way to defeat him, and they took him back to that queen who actually appeared in Savage Dragon issue number 2 when it was where she encountered Malcolm's father. So this was like decades back. He fights off against her and actually tricked them because he tricked them of being, conscious, but he really wasn't. And it's just a whole scene where he just takes them out one by one. It leads up to them, being all happy and everything. And then we find out that one of the ladies who was pregnant had a monster that came out of her body. And we don't know really...
That was Malcolm's baby. That happened in the previous issue.
But we don't... see, how it actually happened.
Not in this issue. We saw it in the last issue.
But I have a funny feeling we're going to find out in the next issue.
We saw it in the issue before.
Yeah, the issue before, yeah, but I'm just saying that...
what happened to the baby next.
Exactly. That's what I meant to say. So, things are getting very heated up in Savage Dragon, but really awesome. Alright, now we're into the big 2 books. Starting with your book, Batman and Robin Eternal, issue number 13.
This book focuses on Cassandra Cain. When she went back to save the children, and there was a lot of flashbacks to Cassandra growing up, how she craved, emotion. The orphan kept her from interacting with other children. He didn't want her to talk. He didn't want her to feel anything. He felt emotion was going to hinder her. So he kept her away from everybody. And she sees these kids run and hug mother. She sees them hugging each other. And she actually she comes into contact with the sculptor, and she asks what that is. Like, she points to it, and the sculptor's like, that's hugging. That's when you care about something. And she goes to hug her, and she's like, no, you weren't made for that. You're made to be something completely different. Never do this again, and we won't talk about this ever again. Just go, and you won't get in trouble. I won't say anything. Fast forward to the present, she meets up with the orphan. They get into a bit of a squabble. He drops her down into this pit, and it turns out, spoiler here, even though it's a week late already and the next issue's out, she failed. The children were already dead, and he had killed them all. So it becomes a fight between her and the orphan. Dick and Harper show up, and it becomes this awesome fight, but the fight is cut short because Mother comes through and says, none of you are leaving here alive. And that's where it ends. It turns out there's a bomb, and it's about to go off to be continued. This series has consecutively given us okay and good artwork and a really great story. I'm at the edge of my seat for each and every issue.
Okay. Batman Europa, issue number 3.
Now, I know Tim's going to disagree with me with this, but I can't... The artwork for Batman Europa, issue 2, and now this issue, it fits Batman. So I'm not saying it doesn't fit Batman. It actually works for Batman. The first time I opened this or I read this, I actually had to stop, and I went back and I did it again. I read it again. I did not like the artwork. That's just my personal opinion. I did like the way Joker looked at times. I don't know. It didn't. Anyway, they go after, I forgot her name already, which doesn't matter anyway because she ends up dying. But it turns out that Batman learns a little bit more about the Joker, or he realizes that the Joker's a bit deeper than he's given him credit for, and he gains a bit of without mentioning it, he kind of gains an appreciation for the Joker in a way, and realizes that his arch rival is more than he's, originally figured him to be. He's got a lot more depth to him, and that we find out who was behind the virus that's killing Batman and Joker, and it turns out this person is a composite of the two of them. The insanity of Joker, but what's the word they use? The abilities like Batman. So it's basically a Joker Batman composite guy. I forgot his name. But he ends up escaping, and we find out that the girl did die in the previous issue, and now they're heading to Rome. And that's where this entire series ends. I'm excited for the last issue. I just hope the artwork's a little bit different. But it does fit Batman, so I can't say it doesn't fit Batman, unlike when I did mention, for example, Jay Lee not fitting for Superman. This artwork does fit for a Batman book. I'm just not really too much of a fan of it. But I still think that Batman Europa is a really great story.
Nova, issue number 3.
I enjoyed this issue. Nova runs to Iron Man because he wants to know where this imposter pretending to be his father is, and he figures the only person that could track him down is Iron Man. And we get to see the beginning of the new Avengers mansion, sort of, because Stark Industries has been bought out. So actually it is kind of a little bit of a teaser for the all new, all different Avengers, I guess, because that's where they're obviously going to have their base. But anyway, this is days later, and it's after, you know, Iron Man tried looking every which way for the father, and he couldn't find him, so he meets up with Sam, and he says, you know, I tried, I haven't found anything. As soon as I do, you know, you'll be the first to know. And Sam's kind of depressed, and he's lost a bit. So he kind of has Sam, Miss Marvel, and Spider-Man Miles. He sends them out to New York on the town just to do patrol, you know, spend time together, kind of to get Sam's mind off of what's been going on with his life. And it was cool. I enjoyed this. It was kind of like a Young Avengers-esque. Not really like Young Avengers. Don't get it wrong with the official Young Avengers, but it felt like this is the younger part of the Avengers in Manhattan, and nothing's going on. Then all of a sudden, the mole people show up, and they chase them down underground. We find out something's going on with the Mole Man as well. They get trapped, and it ends with that gigantic monster from that the Mole Man has, and it's going to become this big battle. I loved it. The artwork's really good. I'm really interested in seeing what happened with Sam's dad and who the imposter is. And it's really cool to see the Mole Man again. It's a really interesting story. If you haven't been reading this, I would definitely recommend it.
Obi-Wan and Anakin, issue number 1.
Okay. Officially, how do I explain this without ruining the book? Okay. Officially, I wasn't going to read this book. It fell into my lap. Now, as a matter of fact, before I continue, this book, as well as the next 2 books, because I believe the next 2 books are the S books, right?
Yeah.
This book and the next 2 books, some stores got these, and some stores got them today. So I feel good knowing that no matter what, the books were released already, but there was a mess up with Marvel, and Star Wars, Anakin, the book that Mike just mentioned, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and Spidey 2099. Some stores got them, some digital stores got them, some stores didn't get them, and actually some stores were asked to hold off because Marvel made a mistake with the solicits. But I was about to say if you to wait before you hear this review, but by now the books are out. Yes, they just came out, so if you didn't read them yet, you might want to skip over the next 3 books, but they are officially out. So this book fell into my lap, honestly. I was not going to read this book. I had no interest in it. I am, however, glad that I did. The artwork was really good. We get to see Anakin. He's not Anakin from Star Wars Episode 2 yet. He's more between Episode 1 and 2. He's still a Padawan. He's still learning how to use the lightsaber, and you can see that he lets his emotions guide him, which is bad because whenever he gets angry, he lashes out, and we see that in a flashback with his lightsaber training. And they end up on this planet, and the planet sent out a distress call, but they're not part of the Republic, so the Jedis have never gone there before, so they have no clue what they're getting into. And then all of a sudden they see this big war or battle going on, and one of the ships ends up going down, and Anakin and Obi-Wan save it, and one of the people on there were 2 that survived. One girl was like, thank you, and the other one pulls up guns and says, quick, are you this or that? And if not, if you answer wrong, I kill you. And they're like, and Anakin's like, we're Jedi, we're here to help. And the woman looks at her daughter or her sister or whoever and goes, what's a Jedi? And it's left off like that. Really great introduction. There's really no spoiler here because nothing really developed in this first issue. It really just set up Anakin and Obi-Wan. This is one of their older missions, and they're on this planet that has never been visited by Jedi or the Republic before. Really cool stuff.
The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 6.
New story arc. Finally. Kind of. We're away from everything Zodiac, but Zodiac is mentioned and it's in the back of everybody's mind. Mr. Negative is in Japan, and guess who also is in Japan? Apparently Peter Parker. See, this is where I don't like Spider-Man jumping from one place to another. First he was in New York, then he was in China, now he's in Japan again. He is everywhere now for some reason, and I'd rather he sticks in New York, but then again, when the Miles Morales series comes out, obviously Miles is going to be more grounded in New York. Same thing with Miguel, which we'll get into Miguel's book next. So, Pete finds out that Mr. Negative's in Japan. He's doing this big show off, or this big show for this one of his backers. I believe he's a backer or supporters, and it involves the spider car. And then Mr. Negative shows up, and he wants Peter Parker, not knowing Peter Parker, Spider-Man. And there is a moment where in Japan something bad is going on, and one of the police officers who Spider-Man, Pete's one of his people, is looking to buff up security because of what happened in the very beginning of in issue 1. And one of the police officers says, you should mention to your bodyguard if he's in Japan that this is going on. And Spider-Man shows up, saves this person who's being attacked by one of his co-workers or brother. I think it was his brother for some weird reason. And then it turns out that it's all connected to Mr. Negative. And Cloak and Dagger are still under his control. Spoiler alert there. So they attempt to abduct Pete. And it doesn't work. But then Mr. Negative shows up. And that's where the book kind of ends. It's like Mr. Negative going... hi, I'm here, and first he's like, what can you do for me, Mr. Parker? And that's where it ends. And I was like, wow, okay, this looks more interesting. I did enjoy this story arc, this setup. We'll see where the next issue goes, though.
Spider-Man 2099, issue number 5.
This was great. Spidey, Cap 2099, teaming up, and Cap 2099 is smart. She already put together that Miguel is Spider-Man, and she talks about her version of 2099, which we all saw in Secret Wars, and Miguel's like, wow, was I an ass in your 2099? She's like, yeah, and she actually mentions that in certain moments that he reminds her of him from her 2099. He's like, okay, let's shut up now, and she's like, yep, you definitely remind me of my Miguel. So they are trying to get this guy and bring him back and send him back to 2099. And it's a big fight. It's awesome. And they get him down finally, but then they get this plane out of nowhere shows up and attacks Spider-Man and Captain America. But really it's a distraction so that they can distract the guy and use him as a way to attack, spoiler here, America. And it leaves off now... What's going to happen with Cap 2099? Is she going to somehow revert back to Roberta at some point? How is this person now from the dark 2099 going to influence the present that sends, obviously, 2099 down the dark route that it's at now? And can Miguel fix everything? And when is he going to find out about Tempest? Man, there's so much. Peter David is doing an excellent job with this run on Spidey 2099. I'm enjoying it.
Okay, the next 2 books are my books. Spidey, issue number 2. Now, after reading this book, first of all, I really enjoyed the artwork. And I really enjoyed this book. Like, this was something of a more... a friendly-esque Spider-Man book. Like, it talks about...
Spidey is more of like the... It's like the Marvel Universe Spider-Man, except
Exactly.
matured a little bit so that older readers can read it more. But it's like, yeah, it's like going back to the past.
But it's like an adventurous Spider-Man, And then it talks about, his origin once again. But I read...
That's a recap page.
I read
that's
through
a
that.
recap page.
But the whole thing is that Spider-Man is fighting against Sandman. And Sandman's like this huge, like, villain for this issue. And he's trying to figure out what ways could he stop Sandman. Because he could manipulate sand, make it into shapes and stuff. So he figured out that water would be a weakness to his powers and everything. We also get a little backside about when he's Peter Parker, what he does as well. I thought
we get
that
to
was
see Gwen,
interesting.
which was cool. Yeah.
And we get to see Gwen, who tries to let Peter say, we're going to study and that's it. And they're just in there studying. It was a really funny book too. But I really liked when he fought against Sandman, and even him and Aunt May when they have that whole thing of he's like saying like, Peter, like, what's going on here? And then he makes these funny crack jokes. Like not crack jokes, like, to say, like, how he's not Spider-Man. And he's saying, like, oh, this happened, this and that. I cracked up. This book had to be my favorite book this week. Spidey issue number 2. And I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to reading the next issue of that. And the final book, and I'll be there in just a second, just let me show this cover. Carnage, issue number 3.
Now, we did move Carnage from physical to digital because I
was worried about this book.
Yeah, and it got us it faster also. We just decided since we got it faster digitally, we just didn't bother buying it physically.
But to be honest, I was wrong. This book was actually good. It's Carnage against Man-Wolf, which we saw in last issue was J. Jonah Jameson's son, who turned into Man-Wolf. And we find out in this issue, as they're, fighting each other, we get a little bit of a backstory about how Eddie Brock was Venom, but then also as Toxin. And the reason why Man-Wolf turns into that is because when he went to the moon, there was this artifact, a jewel, that he had around his neck that actually turns him into that. And without it, which we find out in the issue, he takes it off him, and then that's score 1 for him, which they were about to release Toxin with this push of a button. And spoiler here, remember Gleason? He was the guy behind it that shot the switch out, and then the switch goes bye-bye. And someone goes after it.
Brock, probably.
Probably Brock. And what really worries me about what's going to be coming for Carnage is that Gleason says behind this door, "We welcome you to a new destiny." Gleason working with Carnage?
That's crazy. That is nuts.
But I am telling you, and I was right, that Toxin is going to happen. And I hope it happens in the next issue, and they better not make it into a cliffhanger. Because it was a good book. Really awesome.
Alright. Only physical indie book this
is
week.
All him. All him.
Yeah, I've got all the physical books this week. Isn't that crazy? Well, you had all the indie books this week.
That is
except
true.
For this, which is Spawn, 259. I did not get the sketch variant. I wish I did, but I got the regular cover instead. Eric Larson's artwork is gorgeous in this book. And what this book mostly is you get to see a beginning with Satan taking Wanda, and then the rest of the book...
They got rid of the teeth thing?
Yes, they did. Eric Larson got rid of the teeth. The rest of this book is all Spawn fighting his way to Satan through all these monsters, through this gigantic monster, through this other monster that is like, I believe it was supposed to be an embodiment of Satan. But anyway, then he gets to Satan, and Satan gives him a choice. He's like, I have your wife right here. She has to prove that it's her. She proves it, and then she says, no matter what, don't do it. Don't trade me. Don't listen to Satan. He'll kill both of us. And what Satan says is, I'll give you Wanda and your great life back. All you have to do is surrender your suit.
Ooh.
The best ending. Spawn says, you keep her. The costume is mine. War has officially now been declared.
Wow.
And that's where it's left off. So this was part 1, and this was a great setup for the Satan Saga Wars. This was a great first part to this series. I can't wait to see more. And when I say see, I mean Eric Larson's gorgeous artwork, and I also mean this comic book. It's being done so awesome. I love it. This is a great book. I would recommend it to anyone right now. It's going really, really well. Al is back. Ignore when he came back, that horrible bugs and everything going on.
Yeah.
Now things are great. So Superman Wonder Woman Annual number 2. This examines their relationship through time. It opens up with Clark now, and then it goes into him talking to his parents about being in love and taking, spoiler warning, an engagement ring. Then you've got Wonder Woman talking to Mira. You've got Superman dealing with this, I forgot who it was, but dealing with this goddess or whatever, and Wonder Woman shows up. And you can see slowly as their relationship, or as the book continues on and their relationship continues forward, things kind of start separating. Like, there was a moment, I believe, at the beginning of the book where Wonder Woman and him are at the Watchtower. This is like earlier in their relationship. And now we're in the middle of the book, and Wonder Woman tells Superman that Ares is dead. And they make this dinner plan later on in the book. Well, obviously it ends with them, saying, we're there. Anyway, he makes this huge dinner for Wonder Woman, and then she kind of leaves for a time. She's like, I gotta do something, and Clark kind of gets a little upset because he's like, I'll come, I'll help. And she's like, no, I have to do this on my own. And this is before he lost his powers. She comes back a long time later, and Clark kind of can't deal with, I could have helped. And she's like, that's what this is about? And she explains to him about all, no matter what, we'll be strong, Superman can be vulnerable too. And then it recaps every single thing that's gone on since that moment, which was Superman being possessed by Doomsday, losing his powers, the Magog stuff that happened. I believe they also referenced...
So they did a recap of what happened this whole entire year.
And then we find Clark home again in Smallville, and he ends up putting the ring back because he feels anybody in his life is in danger, so maybe it's best that he never gets married. So obviously you could see that the relationship is separated, sort of. I have a feeling he'll take that ring out again, and I think he'll do it after he sees pre-New 52 Superman and Lois work. My prediction. But now, before we get into the other Superman annual, we're going to do Superman Wonder Woman 24. Superman Wonder Woman 24, you've got another one of Vandal Savage's children. I had to remember his first name. Fighting against Superman using Firestorm as this gigantic, atomic bomb. He gets the upper hand on Superman, but Wonder Woman finds a way to break him out of the, being knocked out and gets him kind of revved up a little bit. And I'm not going to say how they stop him, but they end up stopping him. Superman tells Parasite he lied to him, that they're putting him back in jail because he knows what would have happened if Parasite would have been left free because he helped Superman. And Savage basically does the unthinkable to his child.
And then it says it's continued in Superman Wonder Woman Annual?
No, it's continued in the annual you're about to pick up from me. This was an okay book. I enjoyed the artwork.
Yeah,
everything Superman led to the Superman Savage Dawn, the Superman Annual number 3. This is supposedly setting up the last chapter in the Superman being depowered. In this chapter, he's supposedly going to get his powers back, beat Vandal Savage and his children, and then it ends with him meeting pre-New 52 Superman. But anyway, my first complaint is the horrible artwork in the present day. I'm sorry. I can't with some of this artwork. I really just... there are moments where I guess I got used to it after a time because the first time I looked through this, I was like, I hate this artwork. I hate it a lot. But now it's kind of like, it's artwork. The flashback artwork was a bit better, but like here, I just didn't dig all the lines and stuff, so it was a bit sketchy. So anyway, what is this book? It gives us an origin for Vandal Savage and him through time, while in the meantime, it jumped back and forth between a piece of his origin and then Clark. Clark is back in Metropolis. He goes to check on... John Henry Irons has this project he's working on to help Clark, and Clark wants to try it now instead of waiting for him to test it more. And Lana's like, are you being suicidal? He's like, no. And John Henry's like, well, we're not doing it yet until the project's done. He's like, fine. He goes to the Daily Planet to see how everybody's doing. He sees everybody's doing fine. Lois kind of sees him, but he scoots off. Then there's a Justice League alert, and this is where I hate Lex Luthor a bit. He shows up even though Lex doesn't call him, and Lex is like, you have no powers, you're more of a burden, you stay here. He ends up being left behind, but then he tries to look for a power suit or something so he can follow along, and he's been locked out of everything because Batman's not running Watchtower right now. Batman's not around. He is MIA, so Lex has control over all of the Watchtower. But something does happen on Earth that Superman ends up popping around to save, but that's when Vandal Savage and the rest of his family attack Superman. So he does end up saving Hoarder Root, by the way. Hoarder Root does show up at the end of this book, damn it. So, it's to be continued in Action Comics 48. Savage Dawn will be the last story arc of Superman depowered, because it ends with everybody saying, but Superman doesn't have any powers. He can't fly anymore. And Superman's like, that's going to change. I need him back, and it's gonna change now. So apparently, the hunt for Superman's powers, as well as his final battle between him and Vandal Savage, will happen within the next 48, 49, 50, the next 3 months. Wonder Woman 47, a sketch variant from the Harley Quinn Little Black Book. I'm really happy that both issues of the Harley Quinn polybag, both were sketch variants. I'm very happy about that. Wonder Woman is on Themyscira. Cheetah shows up on the island and wants to steal I forget what it's called, but I will tell you guys in a moment. The Eye of something. Oh, it's right here. Oh no, it says Into the Eye. She wants to steal the Eye of Antiope. I said that probably completely wrong, but it's what keeps the Amazons immortal. So Wonder Woman is scouring the island for Cheetah now. She comes across one survivor of the Donna Troy incident, and he's missing his arm. He's all bruised up, and he blames her. He's like, you brought us here with this promise. You disappeared when you became a god. Then your wonderful sister slaughters all of us, and I'm one of the very few survivors left, and this is all on you. And she apologizes that we'll make this right, but right now I have to do something else. She finds Cheetah, gets into this huge fight. Gorgeous artwork, even though it is not David Finch. I'm kind of sad David didn't do this book, but Meredith Finch did write it. Unfortunately, Cheetah gets to the temple and gets the eye. Wonder Woman's about to step into the temple. Her mother, her spiritual mother, I like that they keep her as a spiritual person, stops her and says, don't go, because if you step into that temple, you're a god now. That's Hera's. You step into there, you're declaring an invisible war between yourself and Hera. And even though you're best friends, she will not take it lightly, and she will not use your friendship, will not be allowed to withstand that. But then we find out that Cheetah got the eye, but she'd have to be willing to give up being Cheetah in order to keep it, to stay immortal. And she obviously chooses to be Cheetah over being immortal and human, so that's kind of how the book ends. This was a nice one-and-done issue, I'd like to say. I'm excited to see where the next story arc goes. I feel like this is kind of bridging the gap between the Donna Troy story arc and what's next. So this was a nice one-and-done story. Justice League 47. Oh, God, here we go.
Uh-oh. What origin did they do of now?
No origin this time.
Uh-oh.
So, Superman fights Wonder Woman until the lasso, which kind of unclouds his mind, but we find out, spoiler here, he's dying. But when isn't Superman dying anymore? Because he's
How could he die? He's the Man of Steel.
Because he's got the energy that he got from Apocalypse, the dark energy from the solar pit, is degenerating his cells and everything, so he's dying.
Okay.
But you've got Vic, Jessica, and Mr. Miracle and Barda, who went after the crime syndicate to find out more about Mobius, who's basically the Anti-Monitor. And we find out that what's her name is also looking to Grail is looking to do something with the anti-life equation, which is very interesting. So I'm spoiling something big here, so don't listen to this if you want to read this book still. It turns out that the ring, Voltune, possesses Jessica Cruz, and basically she is now Power Ring, a dark, evil version of herself, because the ring now has control. And Cyborg tries to save her, and apparently the ring has an override code in it, which brings Grid back. So now Grid is back, Power Ring's back on the crime syndicate side. A Superwoman still crazy and she attempts to kill Mr. Miracle and Barda. I say attempts because there's no way, I don't think that they're dead. And then it turns out it ends with Owlman showing up, and it looks like the crime syndicate is going to have to team with the Justice League in order to save the world from what's to come, because Mobius wants his chair back now. Morbius wants his chair back, and that means Batman's in trouble.
That's not a good idea to team with the crime syndicate, because, they're...
Well, I guess they'll team and then send them back to the destroyed Earth, too. I
hope so.
Lois and Clark, issue 3. The most upsetting news I found out today was this was confirmed as a miniseries.
A miniseries?
Lois and Clark will be ending at issue 8, which we are at issue 3 now, so if you do the math, it's 5 months from now. And that is right at the end of the crossover between Superman original and Superman new DCU. So this book is going to end after their big meet and fight or team up or whatever, I don't know, which has me scared, because that means either this Superman's going to die, or Clark's going to step down, or this Superman's going to step down, or something's going to... I don't want to think about it. I truly and honestly don't want to think about it. I have 5 months before I have to deal with it. We start off with a flashback again with Superman fighting this foe who apparently has not only telekinetic abilities, not only psychic abilities, but he's dangerous. He literally won't stop until people are dead, and he actually forces Clark to nearly kill him in order to stop him. And Clark, obviously this is pre-New 52, refuses to kill him. So he takes him somewhere. We find out where later. Jump into the present. Argument between Lois and Clark, kind of. Not really an argument, more like Lois concerned that Intergang knows about her now. And he's like, don't worry, I wiped everything. Nobody knows. We're safe. Nobody's going to target us. And it's true. But then we find out what Clark has up north himself. Up north, Clark created his own Fortress of Solitude. But the trophies and the other than the mother and father, everything else in the Fortress of Solitude are things he salvaged in the new DC universe or prevented from happening or whatever. Because apparently there are certain... I mean, they do make little little tidbits here, there, and everywhere from old DC universe. So I guess some things that were saved from the old DC universe and some things that were found in the new DC universe. So he has Hank Henshaw. That's where Hank is. He's in the room where... the operating room or the doctor's room or the hospital room he looked like he was in, it's Superman's fortress. And it turns out, remember that flashback? Well, apparently it was a bad idea for Superman to bring somebody with abilities into the Fortress of Solitude because he uses that person, he takes control of that person, has him knock Superman out, and then basically wants to team up with him to go after Lois and Jonathan. And then it ends with a bit of an Intergang. There was one page about Intergang, and then still that thing that's going on up in space somewhere about the Oblivion Stone. To be continued. This is going to be interesting. I think that the woman who's chasing after the Oblivion Stone, I believe she's going to be the one that attacks the new DCU Superman, and the old DCU Superman is going to step in. Captain America White, issue number 5. This was an awesome conclusion to an awesome 5-issue miniseries. Cap saves Bucky, saves Paris, saves the world. How? Read the book to find out. But it ends with him saying, I'm sorry I couldn't stop you from dying during the war, which we all know isn't true. Later on, he come back as Winter Soldier, but Cap doesn't know that. But he does apologize to Bucky, and he actually destroys his own statue because he's alive still. He's still alive, but Bucky deserves to have the memorial he feels more than him and Bucky. So it was a great issue. It shows the relationship between Cap and his best friend Bucky. I think that the artwork and the writing for this book was excellent. If you did not check this 5-issue miniseries out, I would recommend trade paperbacking it. Captain America White.
You're not gonna show...
Oh, if you'd I don't mind showing a little bit of artwork.
Nah, I just didn't know if you wanted to.
Captain America White definitely was worth the read and one of my favorite out of the Jeff Loeb and Tim Seeley what do you call it, books out of Marvel. There's some artwork. I feel like Tim Sale's artwork kind of changed. I said Seeley. Tim Sale. I feel like his artwork changed a little bit in this issue, but not really that bad. It was still very good. And
it doesn't look bad.
It was very good. It's still Tim Sale. Just I feel
yeah, but you're just saying it was a little,
It all happened at night, so it was dark anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Last book, All New Wolverine, issue number 3, which is interesting because issue number 4 is coming out, not this episode coming up, but the following. See, Marvel's not giving us breathing room. I feel like I talked about so many of the Marvel books just yesterday, and we're getting the next issues already. I really hope that in the coming year, in 2016, Marvel cools down with their output of books. So it's Taskmaster versus Wolverine. You tell me who you think won. Who do you think won? Duh. So basically Laura finds out that the girls had these like bulletproof vests and stuff on, so they didn't die like we thought in the previous issue. But they are dying. More into that in a moment. They escape. Laura sends them away because she finds out she has a tracking device on her because of Mooney. I want to say his name is. So she sneaks out and she makes quick work of Mooney and his people again after just basically outing or knocking all of them out in the previous issue. And then he threatens him saying, leave them alone. They're under my protection now until I figure out otherwise. If you mess with them, next time you won't be walking away. I took you down twice. The third time will be the last time. And he says they're Alchemax's property. We know this, we know that, we know the other thing about you. She's like, go ahead and try. You know where I am, and I won't be hiding. And that's where we find out that they're dying. It turns out because of what Alchemax did to them, taking all that stuff away, ended up screwing with their bodies. So who does X-23, or I should say Wolverine, who does Laura go to? Why, the one person who might be able to help. Who's a doctor? Doctor Strange. That is a humongously abbreviated version of this book. If you are not reading All New Wolverine, this is one of my favorite books out of the All New, All Different Marvel. That's actually at least all new. Notice it didn't say different. It just says all new because it is new. Not different, just new, because Laura is a clone of Wolverine anyway. So technically she is Wolverine, just a female version. And I'm sorry, but X-23, I love Laura. She's an awesome character. This is an awesome book. We are officially caught up. Starting with this week's books, hopefully we'll be on time. Hopefully we'll have the reviews out this weekend. Whether we separate it or put it all in one review, it really depends on how much we read. We will start, obviously, reading the indie books first. If we still have more big two, we might do an indie review. Yes, that means the indie review might be returning since World's Finest is single and grouped issues. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you want to see the indie review return, or would you rather everything just be in one big comic review? Personally, for me, either way, since we are doing abbreviated reviews, I do like it in one video. I think we'll keep it in one video for now. If it becomes so overwhelming that we need to separate, then maybe. But for right now, I don't feel like it's overwhelming.
Because, but that's just my opinion.
I agree, because we are. I agree. Yeah, if you guys would like us to separate it, you're welcome to make mention of that, and we will take it into consideration. But I think for the next couple of months, we might keep it as one big review until we kind of get a feel for all the new stuff that's going to be on this channel.
And plus, we have the trusty device of mine that'll take pictures and all that stuff.
So till next time, guys,
see you later.
Let us know in the comments below what you thought about any of the books that we talked about here or any of the books we missed. Likes, dislikes, agree, disagree. All of those comments are great, good, and I love hearing them all. And while you're down there, in the description below, there's a bunch of links to a bunch of different sites. Check those out at your leisure, please. There's Comic Frontline, Zone 4 Podcast, Frontline Gaming Zone, and Frontline Gaming Zone, Comic Frontline, Zone 4, I lost it, Last Ember Press. All awesome sites, all places that I'm involved in, and all sites that if you have the free time, you guys should definitely check out. Till then, guys, take care. Keep reading, keep collecting, and I will see you guys really soon in the next video.
Later, everyone.